from the public.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, it is July 10th, and we are calling the Economic Development, Historic Preservation, and Environmental Conservation Committee to order. Are there any public concerns? I don't believe any, but we'll just double check.
I haven't received any emails or requests to be at the meeting today.
Okay, and it looks like we have 3 sets of minutes to approve. So the April 3rd, 2020 minutes, I will make a motion to approve those minutes.
John, Paul Briggs, you need to take attendance.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, I'll go down the list. Whoops, why is it doing that? I've got Claire Henry.
Here.
Yasmin.
Here.
Alexis. Kim.
Here.
Brian Backus.
Here.
Dart Strayer.
Here.
Dennis Brennan.
Here.
Denise Murphy McGraw. She's there. You're muted, Denise. She's there. John Delarada.
Here.
Kevin Walsh.
Here.
Paul Briggs.
Here.
And Stan Faminsky.
Here.
Okay, go ahead, John. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So I will make a motion to approve the April 3rd, 2020 minutes.
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And the April 3rd minutes passed unanimously. The May 1st minutes, I will make a motion to approve.
Second.
And is there any discussion or changes to those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'll abstain from those since I wasn't present. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. And those minutes passed unanimously. The June 5th, 2020 minutes, I will make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Any changes? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And the June 5th minutes also pass unanimously. And I will turn the meeting over to Ms. Robertson to discuss the rest of the agenda.
Okay, thanks, guys. The first thing I put on there, we talked about this a little bit, I think yesterday, Public Works meeting, but we have a current public hearing out there for proposing to ban the vaping in parks. But the town board has actually referred this to the planning board before, wanted to update the zoning code to, so I would say like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, the town instituted a zoning code within 1,000 feet of schools or daycares. There can't be new tobacco retailers. And the code was actually pretty specific to tobacco because even 4 or 5 years ago, I think maybe the vaping wasn't on the radar as much as it is today. So we do have proposed language to amend the zoning code so that it's 1,000 radius and that vaping shops and things can't set up within 1,000 feet of the schools. And then we were also going to add marijuana into that because of potential future changes so that you wouldn't be able to sell, new stores couldn't go up that have tobacco, vaping, or marijuana. Those are the zoning code changement that we have been working on. But I did want to note, and I think I brought this to you a while ago, I have received some requests from residents to look at a stronger code so that it wouldn't just be, you can't have shops for smoking, within a certain distance of the schools. But you could also prohibit, smoking in public places within a certain distance of, family places or schools or daycares or something like that. There are some codes in California. There's not a lot of codes in New York. So right now, just to be clear, this is just so that those stores can't open up within those places, because there's data out there that shows that when they're available, it tends to lead to an increase in use of those products.
And one thing to note is that Councilwoman McGraw can jump in. This is Alexis Kim speaking. Is that I believe that the code amendment for the parks, the reason why we kind of expedited this is because NCAP is in the process of designing and donating 25 signs that, say no drugs, alcohol, smoking in public parks. And so we took, they need to use this grant funding by the end of August. And so, we realized, okay, this is our opportunity to strengthen our parks and our Parks and Recreations regulations, Chapter 147 of the code. So I believe that this is just one aspect of a broader effort that's going to be to make our community like more of a smoke-free community. And I think that I actually, when I'm in drafting the amendment to Chapter 147, I had an opportunity to review the newly enacted New York State legislation, which obviously applies to Niskayuna, and there is some language in there that prohibits. So not only do we have the language in our town code, but there's state statute that I think maybe we haven't applied in the past that prohibits this display of advertisement of vaping products within a certain distance of I think it's the language used as public areas where children are. So I mean, we have that to rely on in zoning, but I do agree that this might be a good opportunity to look at areas of our zoning code to update in conjunction with the parks. But I think Councilwoman McGraw might have something to add to that because she's more familiar with it on the state level, because I think she was involved with that legislation.
No, Alexis, you're absolutely right. I mean, this is the direction the state is going every year now. For the last couple of years, we've been able to pass a major piece of legislation. This was all part of a large initiative called Tobacco 21 that I've been involved with on the state level. Then there was a series of conversations with Capital District Smoke Free. They're an organization, and John, you may recall, they have come before us a few times in the past at the town board level. They are who we worked with in the initial signs around the parks that say young lungs at play. So they've been a natural partner for us, and they've been a tremendous resource in terms of being able to provide us research and other things. If we were not getting these signs from NCAP, they were going to give us signs. But I would like to be able to be supportive of NCAP through this and just add this addition. Alexis, I am working with Lung and Cancer to get a universal symbol for vaping.
Oh yeah, I thought that would be great. Because I know the cigarette is ambiguous a little bit. You don't know if it applies to e-cigarettes.
Exactly. So I have asked them for that. And Capital District Smoke Free, who just a wonderful organization. Some of their staff actually live here in Niskayuna. It will be a resource to us through this, Laura, is whatever you may very well need. But Alexis seems to have a firm grasp on all of it in a very short period of time.
Denise, I know Jeannie Orr, a local resident, has been
Yes.
very involved in this. Is she a member of the Capital District Smoke Free?
She works for them, John. So
okay.
she's an employee, and she, in the past, she has talked to us about a lot of the issues around selling of tobacco products close to schools and things like that. As you may recall, John, she's brought students in to talk to us. Mm-hmm. And so she is who I have been working with on the local level. On the state level, obviously, I work with all the big, we call them the disease groups, or through my work with March of Dimes, I work with all of those groups and we're part of Tobacco 21. So I would really like to be able to see us where we really were on the forefront of this for a while. And that's changed. I would like to go back to being able to be aggressive around these issues. I think that that's what our residents expect. I think certainly that's what parents expect.
Thank you, Denise. This is a great initiative.
John.
Yeah.
Yeah, Denise, you mentioned that Bethlehem just recently passed a local law. What was their local law similar to what we were talking about with the 1,000 no stores within 1,000 feet of schools and daycares?
Yeah,
or
they've been looking at that for a while. I will send you over everything that Bethlehem did. I have a file. I think, Alexis, I sent that to you the other day. So Laura, I apologize for not getting that to you.
Oh, no, that's fine. My only question was because I'm sorry, I can't remember his name, but the owner of Niskayuna Martial Arts has a fair number of children that come and go out of Niskayuna Martial Arts, and he gets frustrated with cigarette smoke in the air around his children. And so he's just wondering if there's a next step to that legislation, that there's a way for us to take. And I was wondering if Bethlehem had done that or not, or if we're really just looking at the easy things. Well, it's not easy, but the things that are traditional that our code can regulate.
Okay. I think it's more traditional.
Okay.
I'm having a tough time I'm on both my phone and my iPad to try to get into this meeting. For some reason, I'm not getting the audio on my phone. So Laura, I will get it to you right away. I just can't pull it up.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I forwarded it to you, Laura. And I mean, I think one thing to know, if we want to push this along fast, we don't want to rush this through, but I mean, there's a lot of templates and a lot of model policies that we can use from the state level. Other towns enacting, trying to take steps to make their community smoke free. I think I think the impetus behind it is just the exponential increase in teen smoking that we've never seen before since in decades. And so I'm not saying that the marijuana aspect isn't important, but I think that the initiative that's really being pushing through the state is the tobacco free. And it's not tobacco free, but it's also the nicotine, because vaping products don't have the nicotine. So while I think that it's important to have a drug-free community as well, it might add, because then we had to answer all of those issues. Well, what if it's medical marijuana? I think we could maybe think of them separately as and it would make it so that we don't slow down the tobacco vaping aspect because of the marijuana aspect that's a little bit messy and muddy.
Well, yeah, I'll read the code. I mean, we already have a 1,000-foot radius in our code not allowing tobacco. Yeah. So I mean, if we're touching it, I think it makes sense to, and we've actually used it to keep vaping out. It's a little bit, the definition isn't perfect, and so we've used it and haven't been challenged. But I mean, the thought was, if we're touching it, let's clarify and make sure that it very clearly addresses vaping. And then, I mean, if we're touching it, and we know, there was a fair number of people from NCAP actually that came up and were a little frustrated with the CBD store. So I think that was another reason that we just wanted to be on the forefront of it. I think I have the code somewhere and I didn't put it in the packet. I apologize, but I mean, it's very light. It just says you can't sell recreational products. I don't know. I can't remember what it says. We'll have to look at it and then compare it to Bethlehem.
And they are, Laura, you said these words or something very close. We have templates. They have templates for everything. Capital District Smoke Free is part of the larger New York State Smoke Free initiative. So I think that's really the goal, is the things that they can't get quickly and easily on the state level, or to clarify on the local level. That's really what they've been working on for a number of years now. And I think they've been quite successful.
So we'll look at that. Yep. I'm very much in support of that. So the next step for that would be to work with the templates that we have, make sure that Alexis and you and Denise and John are happy with it, and then bring it back to planning board. There's, some other fairly little things that planning board can fold into that. And then we'll just leave anything of the controversial stuff out and then just start moving those amendments forward. I just have to smile because one of the reasons that maybe was taking a little longer in planning board than could have been was because we had the chicken code amendments in the zoning code, and the planning board was very divided on the chicken code amendments. But we're obviously going to take those out because we have them in a different section of the code now. And then we'll just take these, the simple ones through so that we can make sure that we're addressing things in a timely manner.
So then what would be your timeline, Laura?
So zoning code amendments are governed by New York State, and they have the full seeker process and public hearings at both the planning board and the town board. And the CAC doesn't have to have a public hearing, but has to make a recommendation. So the planning board can take a meeting to look at the codes, call the public hearing, and make a recommendation while the CAC is reviewing them. The CAC has looked at them earlier, so I don't think that it would be a lot of discussion, but I do think it has to go through the process, and then it's the recommendation of the town board, and then the town board can call the public hearing and then adopt the zoning code amendment. So I would say it's a minimum of 2.5 months. Could be 3 depending on the way the meetings fall. But as soon as we can get it started.
Okay. Great.
All right, if there is no more on vaping, we have number 4, the sidewalk on Consol Road.
So I was really hoping that Matt was going to be here. He's not here yet. The record should show that Janet Wynn and Michelle Martinelli joined. But Matt's not here. So I got your email, John, and I reached out to engineering to see if they could just take a look at the drainage ditches, because I felt like the last place that we had left it was the drainage ditches. I think when you discussed it with the homeowner, he was potentially willing to work with the town if he would be compensated for, you know, the loss of usability of his land, which is typical. I mean, we don't have to get donations. We can pay fair market value for an encumbrance on the land. And then we just wanted to check the drainage. So I'm just trying to get that communication with the engineering department, and then we can reach out to the homeowner and see what the next steps are.
Okay, very well. I think he's just looking for like an initial plan that we would propose, and then he can make a decision as to whether or not he's going to be on board or not. I think he will be. It's probably going to come down to a little bit of money for him, which it kind of always does, but I think we'll be able to get it worked out.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the, like, you know, the guiding principle actually for state and municipal governments when you do get easements or, you know, kind of permanent access across properties and stuff is that you can pay fair market value. Some people say that's not really worth it to me, but the process is, you know, to make sure that you know what the value of the land is that you're taking and then properly compensate people for it. So I really don't see that being a problem.
John, who is this? Why do you know so much about it?
The gentleman that owns the land where we want to put the sidewalk is John Kosselman. And several years ago, he was approached, I'm not sure, by someone from the town, and it didn't go well. So a couple of years ago, about a year and a half ago, I talked to him and he opened up a little bit more about it. And then just about 5 or 6 months ago, I think it was, I went back over and visited him and had a good conversation with him. And he said, you know, he understands that it's a very bad area to walk on and ride a bike on traffic wise. And he understands the need for a sidewalk. He wanted to have it on the other side of the road because he felt that it would then hook up, you know, with the Mohawk Commons. And I explained to him the difficulties with that. So I do think he is willing to cooperate, but he's concerned about the loss of land because his house is kind of close to Consol Road. But I think if we can, you know, compensate him for that fairly, he'll be on board without a big fight.
Okay.
Oh, and I think we also talked about landscaping, right? Because
yes,
just add a little buffer between his home and the sidewalk because he didn't really want to.
Yes, absolutely. Right. Yeah, because I guess now, you know, the people will be another probably 10 feet closer to his house, right, with the sidewalk, and depending on how we can go over that swale in between the road and his property. But it will definitely add a lot to that area. It'll kind of hook up that area with the Hannaford Square and make it a lot safer.
Yeah, and that was always the goal. That was what the first stretch of sidewalk was about, and that's why we wanted the second stretch of sidewalk. I think Highway went and talked with him because that was an offshoot of the stuff we were doing with Hummingbird, John.
Yes. You might be right about that, Denise. It was several years ago initially.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that brings us to the resolutions.
Okay, so the resolution I had on there was that at the last meeting we called for the public hearing on the special use permit for an average density development at 2538 River Road. I was half joking when I read Alexis's comments that we haven't sent that to the paper. But Alexis,
yeah, that's the issue. I don't know, Laura. I mean, so that was a you know, God honest mistake. You guys all saw my urgent email saying respond ASAP if we want to do 5 public hearings. I you know, because the 4 public hearings were ones that were carried over from the March meeting. You know, the comptroller one, the fees, alarms, and chicken code, and then now the vaping. And so it was an honest to God mistake that we forgot to include the public hearing notice for calling for a public hearing for Kelt's Farm. And I think that if we were already concerned about not being able to give due consideration to the 5 public hearings on the local laws during one meeting, that I don't think we'd be giving doing Kelt's Farm, the applicant or the public, any favor by trying to now push that in and put pressure the Gazette to publish it. I think maybe but that said, the law requires that I think you have 60 days for the town board to call for the public hearing from the recommendation. So I think we would have to either do a special meeting in August that we could dedicate just to a public hearing on this, on the Celts Farm application, which might be, I mean, this is a town board decision, but might be a good idea since I'm sure there's going to be a lot of comments. Or else, I mean, I think that's the only option if we're not going to do it July 28th, because then we run into the 60-day issue.
Well, Alexis, I'm just curious because planning board and zoning, well, actually both have different requirements, but planning board is required to have the public hearing notice 10 days prior to the meeting. Is there a difference in the town board?
No, it's that we have to give I mean, Michelle Martinelli, if you're on this call, you can jump in. It's that we were supposed to, I mean, Michelle sends these to the Gazette usually, I think 7 days in advance of the 10. And I mean, we're just getting really close to the cutoff business days being.
I was hoping
the 28th, like you wouldn't have to, it would run
I think Michelle's trying to say something. I don't know if she's on mute.
Sorry. Go ahead, Michelle.
That's okay. I was hoping to send the public hearings to the newspaper this morning, but I think we still have a little bit of time.
Yeah, we're okay.
Yeah, so whatever decisions you make.
Yeah, so I guess Councilman Delarada and Councilwoman McGraw and any other member, or Supervisor Syed, what's your opinion? Because I guess Michelle has not yet to send them out, and so we have time to either, take out one of the public hearing. I know the comptroller one and the change to the vaping one are time sensitive. I mean, I guess we could remove the fees, or I mean, the chicken code. I mean, what's your thoughts on that? I just think
I'm not opposed to separating the Celts Farm one because I think that's going to be the one with the most comments on it. I don't know if it's easier to load them up on one meeting or to separate the Celts Farm so those people can just all show up on that day, and then the rest of the hearings can be separate. I mean, it's going to be remote, virtual anyway, so it won't be that difficult for the town board to meet separately. But what do you think about that, Ms. McGraw?
I think committing to an extra meeting in the summer when we're trying to work around people's schedules. I know people aren't really going a lot of places. I just think it's hard to sit. We're meeting like every other day as it is. I don't know.
You don't like us to do this. Well, you guys are my new group of best friends.
I know.
Well, I know, but I also think that if you're talking about due process, like we already advertised the date, and so to the extent that we can be, as compliant with the dates that we have talked to the Windsor Drive residents about over and over again. And, I mean, some of them are definitely putting things on their calendar, so they may have already put this date on their calendar. So my recommendation would be, if you're going to move a public hearing, move a different one. Because
maybe the chicken code.
John, can we wait on chickens?
I mean, we can move it, or we can just keep them all on the same day. I think all the comments are going to be on Celts Farm, so I don't know. I mean, if you add that, the meeting is going to be long either way. I don't know there's going to be a whole lot longer with the chickens, but maybe there's going to be a lot of comments on the chickens.
Yeah, we usually get a lot of comments for both, quite honestly.
I mean, the only suggestion, if we don't want to add a meeting, is that if we could maybe make the agenda meeting that's scheduled for August, maybe make that a special meeting as prior or after that, just for the purpose of a public hearing on the chicken code.
I'd rather not do that.
Or no, okay, then we can wait. Either way, I don't mind staying up. No. I mean, we've done planning board meetings until 1 a.m. It's fine if we do the same thing for the town.
I know. I've been on the ride.
So, and also, I think people are paying attention to the chickens, and that date was advertised too. If we can,
I think so. Just
right.
We're gonna.
All right.
Well, does everyone have a good night's sleep on the night before, and it'll be fine.
Alexis, you'll have to share your Red Bull with us.
Yes. So. Okay, Laura, can you get that public hearing notice ready for Michelle ASAP?
Yes.
So we're at 6 now. 6 public hearings. 5. I can't.
Correct.
Yeah. 5 last night, and then we didn't have Celts Farm. Yeah. Even though all of us looked at the urgent email from Alexis. I'm so sorry, Alexis.
It's fine.
Yeah, but I mean, like so I think that it actually runs in the paper on the 17th, right, Michelle? I think that it'll actually run in the newspaper on the 17th, and you have to get it to them by the 15th. So I think we're okay. Yeah.
So we're okay.
We're okay. Yeah.
All right.
And then So then we just talked about this, the resolution to set fees for subdivision plan applications following the public hearing. We had previously said that that was okay to have a resolution on following the public hearing. I do not think you should do that for Keltzer, but the subdivision, that's a reduction in fees to, you know, make the projects go faster. So I think that's fine to just put a resolution on at the end of the month for that. And then
wait, what did you just say? You were like Alexis there for a minute. What do you?
Oh, sorry. So most of the time you guys call for a public hearing and then wait to the next meeting to take final action. Before, when we were doing the reduction in fees for subdivision and site plan, we had said that it would be okay to have the tentative resolution approving the change at the same meeting that we're having the public hearing. Although if you don't want to do that for any of them, that's fine. That one's not time.
So you're advocating for having the vote on all of them?
No, just the site plan application fee one, and probably you have to do the. Are you going to do the comptroller one at the same time too?
We're going to do the comptroller. We're going to do vaping.
And vaping. So I mean, I would say put the fees for subdivision in those ones that you can just take action on.
We also need to do the alarm system because that needs to. I mean, we need to notice the public.
We need to do the alarm system, right? So why wouldn't we do Keltz Farms?
To take action on it the same night of the public hearing.
Yeah.
I mean, you can. I actually leave that entirely up to you guys. You absolutely can. The developer would be very happy with that. But typically, when it's controversial, you know, the town board takes the comments and then has the month after to kind of work through them and then make the decision at the next meeting.
Okay, but we've had 4 months of comments, right?
So you have, right?
Meetings and watching your meetings and.
Yeah, and if you guys are comfortable, I mean, I don't think a lot of the comments are going to change. If you kind of know where the comments are coming from and you're comfortable with what you're thinking about, the next steps that you're thinking about taking, yeah, you absolutely could have that on there. I would probably just, so the planning board recommended certain conditions, and you guys would probably want to review those and decide if you wanted to include any of those conditions in the special use permit. If you wanted to put any of your own conditions in the special use permit and have all of that prepared and ready for the meeting so that, you know, you could modify it during the meeting after you heard public comments or any of that, but you definitely want to have the plan for how you wanted to issue that special use permit or deny it based on, you know, things that you already understand about it.
Okay. John, what do you want to do?
I think, we can go forward with that on the next meeting.
Okay, so that will be the public hearing and the resolution. But chickens, I think we should probably push action off until.
Yeah, because that's going to require us to take multiple. I mean, that might require multiple steps. I mean, I don't want to.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll have the public hearing, but we can figure out the code and take action on it at the next meeting would be better for me because my staff has also reviewed that code. And as the implementers, they have some comments that we want to work into it. But I think just taking the time to make sure that we get that. I mean, that one is just a little bit farther before the end of pipe than the Keltz farm that we haven't been doing that one as long. So if we can just have a little extra time on that one, that would be nice.
That'll work.
Okay. Laura, do you mind taking the lead drafting the Keltz farm resolution just because you're obviously the most familiar with that one?
Yeah. I'll get the public hearing to you. And then I can draft a resolution, send it all to the town board, and then they can edit the way that they want. I think that makes the most sense.
All right. So that brings us to planning board issues.
Okay. So we basically discussed this, the 2538 River Road Keltz Farm Emergency Development. I think you guys all saw it because I got it to you as quickly as I could for your call for a public hearing, but the planning board recommendation is attached. I printed out my thing today because I have such a hard time with flipping back and forth. But essentially, they show the connection and they the conditions that they recommend that you put in a special use permit for the average density development would be to have the connection, a full road connection paved between Windsor and River Road, but install an emergency only gate until such time as traffic mitigation can occur to mitigate additional traffic impacts of the connection to the neighborhood. And if you look in the special use permit application, the report that the planning board does, to that. The reason for that compromise is because they, go through all of the history of the Windsor Drive connection, the benefits to the Windsor Drive connection, but they also recognize that that's a lot of traffic and that there's an existing speeding problem on that road. And so in order to protect the residents of the neighborhood, they feel that it is an appropriate compromise at this time to just do an emergency only gate. Then the second one is non-controversial. I think that the open space would be dedicated to the town of Niskayuna, which was a pretty important point that we've talked about multiple times, and that it would be deed restricted to remain forever wild. And that's some kind of nice upland forest. And actually, if you look at the plan, I think that some of the natural lupin field out there is in the open space. So potentially, like, maintaining that lupin field would also be a benefit to the town, and it would be great if we owned it, and that could be managed as forever wild as well, potentially forever wild as a lupin field. I'm sure you guys all know how excited I would be about that. And then the realignment of the crosswalk on River Road would be completed during the initial phase of construction. We talked about that too at the last meeting, because people have been waiting for that realignment for a long time, and it's supposed to be in a grant. So we would want that to be the absolute first stage of anything that happens over there, so that those public benefits are realized on the onset of the project, not at the end. Did anybody have any questions on those? Okay. The next thing we have is 2220 Crescent AB, which was completed. I know Gail sent a bunch of you guys a request for a pre-construction meeting. We are working through the final engineering, and we'll get her there. She has a stormwater detention basin and a driveway off of Crescent Ave that we just have to be okay with so that she can get a building permit and start moving her business. But she's through the planning board, and it's building permit and engineering now. Vincenzo Drive, 4-lot subdivision, was approved by the planning board, and right now Alexis and I are working on the deed restrictions. Luisi did send us some, and Alexis took a look at them and took a look at some other samples, and I think made them work, I think, a lot better. And so I think we're sending them back to Luisi to make sure that he's okay with them. But so we're working through all those deed restrictions. We have the updated language and the memorandum of understanding on the common plan of development. And there's just a couple other things that we're finalizing so that we can get that plat recorded. And then I know that he's actually anxious to pull a building permit. So I think you would probably see a building permit for one or more of those homes, by the end of summer.
Laura, I know it's not typical for me to sit in on pre-construction meetings, but since there's the conditions in the Vincenzo regarding approval of, meeting certain conditions, can you just make sure I'm scheduled in on that?
That's a really good idea.
And I will send back, and I'll CC you the deed restriction, which, like I said, is standard and I'm very comfortable with.
Okay.
So yeah, just make sure I'm on that email.
And he made some changes to the memorandum that were recommended by the people of Railroad and Antonia Drive's attorney. He did incorporate some changes in there. I think a lot of them were just textual changes, but anything that he could do, he did, which, we recognize, and re-signed it. So we do have that updated and re-signed one in my office. Any questions on that one? The Ace Heart, I'll just note, the planning department does do regular inspections on that, and we will follow up with any complaints, and there are limits of clearing on the plans that we will enforce. And so, it is going to building permit. It doesn't mean that it will be forgotten. We will pay attention. So Ace Hardware is scheduled for tentative final approval on Monday. They've got all the variances and that they need. And they have a sign package that they submitted, I think, very midweek. I think what the plan is, and Kevin's probably listening here, is that the engineering and the site plan is essentially done, and we don't want to be dragging them through when they need to actually close on the building and start their building permit process. But the signs may still need some work. And so we talked to the applicant. What we'll probably do is approve Ace Hardware and reserve approval on the signs until a later action, which we've done for Bodyworks. We've done for a variety of other commercial businesses, because the people who are proposing the tenant change aren't sign companies. And so sometimes they don't have all the details that we need to fully understand the signs. So to the extent that we can approve some of the signs, if the planning board's comfortable, we will. But I think we're aiming towards just approving the tenant change to Ace Hardware. And then if we need another meeting or two to work through them, like they want a monument sign on Balltown Road that says Ace Hardware, entrance on Knott Street. There was one for Morgan Stanley there before, but this one's bigger. And, you know, they do want to have signs on the front of the building advertising the kind of companies that they support. So it's just the planning board just got to work through some of those details. But generally speaking, I think that the tenant change will probably have action on Monday. And one of the things that we heard from the public is that they're a little concerned about outdoor storage of snow machines and snow blowers and lawnmowers and things like that. So the planning board will put a condition designating where the outdoor storage is and limiting it, so it'll be easy for the building inspector to enforce. You know, I think having a local hardware store in our town center overlay district is great, and it has another service to our residents, and it could be walkable and have, you know, they're adding sidewalks and redoing the landscaping and things, so that's great. But we do want to make sure that that building is in harmony with our town center overlay district. So that's the balance that we've got there. And then the State Street site plan reviews we're just working through them. There's a bunch of them that we talked about at the last meeting, but none of them have been finalized. So I'll just keep you updated on them as they go along. The Aqueduct land discussion, I apologize. I've been very busy. I had forgotten until I started doing the minutes from last meeting that the next step that we had on there was a formal proposal to retain the public land. I will work on that and send it to you guys. I know you wanted something on a piece of paper that you could react to. So I apologize for not having that at this meeting. I'll try and have it at the next meeting. We can continue that.
Laura, while you're on Aqueduct, I just want to let you know, you may have seen the email. We heard from Canal Corp yesterday. Their new initiative, which will include a stop at Aqueduct Park, launches today. It's staycations. I love New York canals. And it's got 3 spots along the canal. And one is Schenectady to Niskayuna. So it's a paddle and a pedal, and they've been great partners. And Laura, they were singing your praises yesterday in helping address their issues immediately. But I can't say enough good things about this. I think it's really fantastic for us as a community. So, Laura, thank you for helping make that happen.
No, I'm really glad that they want to make that park a stop. I think we talked about this before, Denise, that park is only going to get better. Yep. And so bringing people to it, I know we're working on it right now, so some people might be like, what? But just wait. It is going to be great.
And I think so many more people are going to get to see it thanks to this statewide initiative. I mean, it was already, they started taking reservations in the afternoon yesterday, and it's already gangbusters.
Oh, so that's great. That's super cool.
A ton of reservations already. Matt Yetto is on, by the way. So welcome, Matt Yetto. But it's all free. So if you ever wanted to kayak, try it. That's great. I'm very excited by that. And I hope it continues. Like, I hope it's not just a COVID thing. Like, we can get that park in ship shape, and they can, if they continue to run that program. You know, Rivers Ledge may put, well, they're supposed to put small amounts of commercial there, and we've talked before about a bike rental place or like a small coffee shop down there or something. Like, I hope that the program continues and we can draw people, you know, from the area up into Niskayuna to see what, you know, we have to offer and spend some money here. So. I agree. I absolutely agree. I really just think it's a terrific initiative. So hopefully we'll see a lot more people.
So where exactly is this public land, Laura?
Oh, sorry. This is the public land we discussed at the last meeting, and it's the one that's adjacent to the senior center. And I'm just saying I did not move forward on that. Okay. I have it on the agenda because if you read the minutes, I had said that both Paul Briggs and I had 2 different proposals. Or sorry, not Paul Briggs. Sebastian and I had 2 different proposals. And I think that, you know, you guys just sort of came to put it in writing, and then we can, you know, we can react to that. So my next step on that is to put a formal proposal to retain the land in writing, which I had forgotten, but I will do.
All right. No worries.
Quickly, the zoning board has 6 cases scheduled for July. And I told you guys this before, like we typically get like about 30 pool permits in a summer. I think we're at like 60 to 70, and we're getting 30 pool permits a month, and the pool permits have not slowed down. 5 of the zoning board cases are pools. So it's just unbelievable the number of pool permits that we're getting this year. Yeah.
One sec. Can you see me?
Yeah.
I know I got a new video camera because my camera was being weird. When we're talking about permits, so Verizon had reached out about the moving forward with our the 5G in Niskayuna right at the beginning of COVID, and I explained to them that everything's on hold kind of right now. It would be too overwhelming. Can I give them the green light right now to start processing those applications to work in the right away to install the small cell technology?
Yeah, I thought you said, and we had talked about this a little bit. You might just note to them that, as we say to all residents, our normal turnaround time on building permits is just, I actually think that we're closer to being caught up, close-ish, and that we really have been responding in a timely manner to building permits that we've received, as long as they're not overly complicated and we have all of the information. But yeah, I think, as long as they're not handing in 100 permits in a day, and they understand that, people are still coming and going, and especially like if we get hit with a COVID case or something, like we're a pretty small department. But yeah, I would say you can give them the green light.
And this is a kind of a Matt Yeto question. Matt, I know that the permits involve, working on the right of way. Your department's going to be involved. Are you going to delegate that mostly to the new junior civil engineer who you hired? And if so, do you want us to have her sit in on like our first meeting with Verizon?
It won't hurt, because initially we'll be doing, Josh and I will be doing it, but then she may be involved. So this is going to be a long-term process. It could go on for years, I assume, because of all the different expansions. Yeah. So I would say it would be worthwhile to have her there.
Okay. In your packet, speaking of the Aqueduct Park, there are 3 change orders to the construction that we're working on down there. I included them in your packet. The first one is we would like to install a drinking fountain with a bottle filling station at Aqueduct Park, and they have to buy the outdoor fountain that allows for bottle filling and drill through the wall in order to put it there. And so the change order for that is $3,780. But I think we may have talked about this before. I just want to make sure it's okay with everyone. That is, it's kind of like with COVID, it's the environmental friendly way to go. The rowing club has asked us multiple times for a bottle filling station. It's getting hotter and hotter. The more people can have good access to water and reusable bottles is better. So, as long as you guys are okay with that, that's within my signing authority. And I would notify you guys that I have made that change to the bathrooms at Aqueduct Park.
Yeah, I think the other issue too, Laura, with that, because the water fountain will requires electricity, they need to bring the electrician back in again and run wiring behind the walls that are already finished. So it's adding to the cost a little bit.
Yeah, but it does add a lot of value to the bathroom, I think, especially if you're going to have people coming and going on a regular basis, which I hope we do. And the other one, which is very small, is just this. I asked for them to do a frost-free spigot because a normal one was spec'd out in the drawings, but I myself have done this before. Have the spigot freeze up inside my house, and it's not. It's $460 extra to have the frost-free one that it has that protection for any kind of weather. And the crazy New York weather that we have, it's not that crazy, but I love it. And so that's only an additional $460. So if there aren't any objections to those, I'd probably move forward with them this week, next week, Friday.
And Laura, has there been any thought given to permanent hand sanitizing stations over there as well? I know we're talking about it for the splash pad and other places.
No, but if we are doing those, maybe we should have him add that in so that he's doing them all at once.
I definitely would have them added in. We're just trying to figure out how many we need to be ordering so that we can figure out if it needs a resolution. I'm assuming it's going to, because they're somewhat expensive for making an investment. We were talking yesterday at the farmers market committee about investing in, whether to buy a kind of a one season use hand sanitizer or hand washing station, or if we think this is going to be going around forever, or not forever, for years to come. So I think that, Laura, is that within the scope of the funding for that, for Aqueduct Road?
Yeah, that would be completely fine.
Do you want us to send you the ones that we're looking at for the town so that they're consistent?
So what I would do is, depends on your timeline and his timeline, but send me the specs of the ones you guys want to use. And then either he would purchase one and send a quote to install it for me, or, if your timeline lines up with when he's installing the water fountain or whatever, we could purchase it and then he could just install it.
Well, can we do that? Because we need them now. So whenever you were going to do them, have them do all of them, right?
Yeah. Yep. Do we have the purchase of them on the? Well, we don't know if it's going to have to be finance or if it's going to be full town board. Because if it's finance, that'll be on Tuesday, right?
Yeah, it's going to be finance. It's going to require finance approval.
Yeah, so we'll know by Wednesday if we can tag that on there. Awesome, good idea.
Good.
And then the other one I put in there, which I have had meetings before, but it's been a variety of different people that have been at the meetings. I think Yasmin and Denise were at one. Paul Sebesto was at another one. I asked Janet to come, but this is really her first kind of delve into these grant projects. But there's the rowing club currently does not have changing rooms, and it's difficult to add on to that building. So they have. And I think we talked about this before, we need a fair amount of in-kind services on the grant. So they are proposing to build the addition, pay for the materials of the addition, do anything that is really within the power of volunteer hours to do. But they are unable to pour the foundation on the addition. It's just over and above what they can do. And our Canal Corps our Canal Corps grant does include upgrades to the building, including drainage and the retaining wall that we had put on there. So I think that we can pouring a concrete foundation adjacent to the building in our grant, and then that would allow for us to have more in-kind service from them to put the addition on, and also it would allow for them to have separate changing rooms for their clubs and the girls and boys. So it's $11,940. And I think that does require town board approval. So I guess my question is, I think that we are actually getting to the end of the $300,000 that we have. But I think I can do some calculations. I do think this will probably still fall within that $300,000 if you guys want to move forward with it. I know it would be very meaningful and helpful to the programs that are run there. Up to you. I have, in my mind, received approval for this before, but so many personalities have come and gone and changed that I just want to put it on the Economic Development Committee meeting before we get anywhere with finance or the town board. And we did talk about this before. This would obviously also have to fold into the contract that we need to work out with them on what responsibilities are and any fees and stuff that they pay us for Aqueduct Park.
Is there a question out there?
So, I'm not hearing any opposition. I'll just move it forward to finance then.
That's
okay,
fine.
John's nodding at me. And then if the board has more questions, we can talk about it there. Okay. I've flurry of emails between Weston and Sampson and Schenectady County, and I think that we have decided on 9 a.m. on Wednesday. One of the mornings next week, Weston and Sampson is going to coordinate with the county on, how they can get their surveyor guys out there and what the county needs to see in order to justify these crossings. So we're really working hard on the St. Joseph crossing right now, trying to work through the sight lines and stuff, which we knew was going to be difficult, which is one of the reasons that we have an engineer. So they're meeting with Schenectady County next week. and keeping that one moving forward. I did get another email from Barton LaJudas about River Road Park. They had sent me kind of updates to the conversation that we had with the Niskayuna softball club. And I think they've incorporated all the designs. The softball club did want the under drains. You know, it did change some of the original things that we had thought that we would cover, but I felt, and everybody understands you have to take what I say with a grain of salt, but I felt at the end of that meeting, we had gotten to a place where even though some of the initial things that we had decided on were taken out, the under drains were definitely something that the Niskayuna Rowing Club wanted. And so everybody was kind of happy with where the phasing was going to be, happy-ish with where the phasing was going to be at the end of that meeting. So they sent me the drawings. I had 2 comments on them. They said that they will get those drawings updated and sent back to me. I'm hoping to get them today, but if not, it's going to be Monday or Tuesday. And they'll be at 90 or 100% then. So we'll just run them past softball club one more time, and then we can put them out to bid.
Okay, Laura, softball's eager to get back together. They were asking again last night what we've heard, what we have. So can we try to get that and get a meeting scheduled right away?
Yep.
And then on that, the reason I was talking to them is for your grants list, and I don't know if there's going to be paperwork required of you, but John and I got the document. I think it was sent to Yasmin yesterday as well. We're getting about $110,000 from the county. This is a project we started last summer with them. All parks things. Softball's going to get about 9 out of that 110. Oh, okay. And then it's just other park stuff. It's handicap accessibility for the bathrooms by the splash pad, the softball, resurfacing of tennis and basketball. So all things like that. But $9,000 for softball, I think that's real money to them at this point.
Yeah, that's great. So that would probably go into some of the things. Will that go into some of the things that are kind of on the softball side, or would we fold that right into the 200? Well, actually, I think we're at like the first phase is 500,000.
It's specifically for nets. So
nets.
I think that
that's
so
nice.
I think that's softball side. I don't know.
No, that is that. So that added a little bit of additional cost, and if that's specifically for nets, that's great. I know exactly how to fold that into the. That's the net between the playground and the field number 1.
Yeah, exactly. So that would be good.
That's perfect.
The only disappointment was baseball. We didn't get the drainage money for baseball. And I know Lori Ferretti really wanted like a stations thing where you can do various activities. We didn't get that either, but we got about half of what we thought we were going to get. I think we made out pretty well though.
Well, so Matt and I were talking about this before. If we have a contractor out there doing drainage on River Road, and he designs it, and it's just going to be an additional, I don't know, $5,000 or $8,000 to pop him over to baseball to do it. Like, I mean, we might be able to just take that out of Parkland, and then we have the economies of scale. So I don't think that's still not within reach. If we've got a contractor out there for one thing, we might be able
Laura,
to
that would be great. I know John has to go, and I'm going to take the rest of the meeting. But baseball has been the priority for John. I mean, so as the committee chair, I would hope that we could be able to, we could make that work if we're already over at softball.
Yeah, just an additive alternate, like move your guys down the street for a day, and then we have the benefit to the baseball as well.
That would be great.
That is excellent.
John, right? You've been talking about baseball for 1.5 years.
Yeah, it's great that we can get that done. I have actually to go to court at 9:30. They're starting physical presence again in court, so we're getting somewhat back to normal. Even though it's like a sci-fi movie with everybody in masks and 20 feet away from each other. But
you got to get your temperature taken a lot of times, John. So be ready.
Yes, there you go. Thank you all. I'll see you soon.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Yep. Bye-bye.
So, Matt Yetto, does that sound good on the baseball fields?
Yeah, I'm sure they would love it. They've asked me many times about anything that can be done for some of the drainage on the, especially the upper field at Babe Ruth.
Yeah, so we were thinking during River Road and just pop them over to Blatnick Park, kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've talked about retrofitting the solar beacons on Rosendale Road so that they don't blink 24 hours a day for like a year, probably. I got a quote from MJ to review the solar beacons, go out there and take a look at how the different types of buttons that you could add to the system you know, it's field work and some coordination with us. So it's $2,500 for them to retrofit those things. I think that Charlie's maxed out. I think that he may or may not have the capability to figure it out himself. But if we did want to move forward with it and have somebody figure it all out for us, that's the price that I got from MJ.
Well, I don't know. I mean, is it, I know we want to do that. Is it really critical, Laura? I mean,
well,
it's not
so
a lot of money. I mean, I hate to say no because it's not a lot of money, but
not a lot of money. But you know, that's to figure out how to put the button on there. And then, you know, we still either, if it's something Charlie can do, they can give him the specs and then we can order it and he can do it, or we would have a contractor do it quickly. So, I mean, I would guess that it would probably total about $5,000 to get it figured out and installed. I mean, there's probably places here and there that we could get that. And I do think that it is a good thing to do. But I don't know with the budget climate that we have right now and everything that we're spending on parks and things. I don't know if we're going to do it or not.
Isn't it a highway issue?
Yes. Yep. Well, yes. I mean, it's the reason that falls to me is because that was put on through a grant, and so but there isn't any grant money left. That grant is closed out. But so initially that was put in, and we paid 20% of that whole project. So we definitely had good value and savings on that project. There's no question. But fixing something that was unforeseen.
Yeah.
So it is highway. If you want, I could bring it to. I could email the quote to Rosemary and Ray and say, "Do you guys have any thoughts on this / any budget?" I mean, it wouldn't come to planning at this point.
All right. Yeah, you should ask them.
Okay, I'll ask them. That may be small potatoes for highway. I don't know. It's not small potatoes for planning because I have a very small budget. But Complete Streets was thinking about doing a drive-through event, so we kind of canceled our bicycle pedestrian festival for the year. And then we were trying to decide about public outreach. There are a couple things they wanted to do. They wanted to put out a survey through the town website because so many people are walking and bicycling right now. And they wanted to just see what people's thoughts were on where, now that they're out, and you guys probably have all seen this. I see people biking and walking on Balltown Road. There's just a lot of people out where you didn't traditionally see them before. And so I guess the Complete Streets was thinking it would be timely to get people's feedback on, what it's like to bike and walk around and where they could really use some additional connections. And we can incorporate some of that into our future plans for where we want to do complete street treatments. So they're working on the survey questions now, and then I'd probably send them out to you guys and see if you like them, and then we could do an email blast to town, collecting some Complete Streets input. And then the other thing is they were wondering, the drive-through Arbor Day was really successful. And go ahead.
No, I'm agreeing with you.
Oh, yeah. And so they were thinking they can't do their normal festival either, but what if they put treatments down on the road and do an email blast to people and say, hey, we've put a Complete Streets treatment on Clifton Park Crescent Ave. Take your strollers over there, walk through it, get in your car, drive through it, see how you feel about it, and then send us your comments. And just as a fun, interactive, take a trip around the neighborhood kind of thing. And then, they're still connecting with people about Complete Streets, but it's socially distant.
Is this an opportunity, or is there something that we can do to provide more education? I mean, we're all driving around and people some people walk on one side of the road. Other people walk on the other side of the road. They're not walking in the direction they're supposed to. They're not bicycling in the direction they're supposed to. Yes. I keep posting things. I know other people are posting things, but we can definitely add that. Priorities, right? I mean, it would be great to hear from people and hear where they think we could be spending more money to do other things. But some of the basics are just being lost on folks. They never really thought about it before, right? If they went out
And there's actually a lot of good complete streets educational things out there, and it's like bicycles have to comply with the same laws that cars do. You have to stop at stop signs when you're bicycling that the cars have to stop at, like things that people don't always realize.
I don't know what the what your budget is for what I'm going. I like to call things the old names, the bike rodeo.
The bike rodeo. Mm-hmm.
I love the bike rodeo. I love that name. But I don't know what you spent on the pizza and whatever for that. But I mean, maybe there's something that we can give out to people, and we can do a drive up, whether it's like a reflector they can wear, and then we would have the opportunity to pass out, I don't want to dumb it down, but how to walk, walking and biking, road sharing, safety,
No, that's a great idea.
I'm full of them, Laura. I'm full of them.
We typically spend about $2,000 on those bike rodeos, but actually it's almost never cost the town anything because we got 2 grants from the CDTC. Right. But scaling it back because we're not buying pizza and having music and stuff like that. I think we could easily do something within the planning budget that would have giveaways and stuff and incorporate education, and then just maybe get people outside for a day or so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, and I know whoever gave us the helmets that time, I don't.
Yeah, that's all CDTC. And actually, they have some free stuff anyway that they just always provide. Like, we can get those kids' vests and those little blinky blue lights. Those are free. They'll send them to us anytime that we're doing an event. They have a lot of safety.
Some of that stuff, and let's figure it out what else we can make little goodie bag, right? People line up. They lined up for the trees.
No, they definitely will.
That was a great day, Laura. You did a fantastic job.
It was fun. I think people like the drive-through things right now. It's safe, and you're getting them out of the house. So
right, they see people. They can talk through their car window and keep driving. So I would, love I would, and I'm not just putting something else into. I will do whatever it takes to help you do that.
Okay,
try to find reflect whatever it is. I'm happy to help, but I would love to. I think that's a real opportunity for us right now.
Okay, awesome. Then I will update them and get them going on it. We were going to create a subcommittee to start working on that event. So I'm glad we have that support.
Happy to help. And then I think when we have these events, perhaps promoting the fact that these are all done by town volunteer committees and what those volunteer town committees are. And if you'd be interested in those, maybe we'd get some people.
Yes, because I think we have at least one spot open on Complete Streets.
Great.
Tree Council, I put that they want to work on the Blatnick Park sign for the fall project and see if a tree watering system can be created. And I can get into that more. But Steve Signell, who has been amazing actually in a variety of different volunteer groups, is moving to Vermont. And so he's leaving the Tree Council. We were kind of like really sad, but his neighbor is Jennifer Lippman, and when he told her that he was leaving, she said that she would be interested. So she's on vacation with him right now, but said that when she comes back, she can send her resume. So if you guys are interested, I can send that resume out when I get it to you guys and see if we can fill his spot by the end of the month. And I think even when we fill his spot, there's one more spot on the Tree Council. Okay. So the Blatnick Park sign is a little bit in disrepair, and the Tree Council has been kind of focusing a little bit on adding trees to Blatnick Park. So they would like to move it forward and repaint it if possible, and get it out of, like right now there's 2 juniper trees that are overgrowing it. Pull it forward, plant some trees and shrubs around that won't overgrow the sign, and just spruce the area up a little bit. So they wanted that to be their fall project because they're also trying to just be time sensitive to people and not necessarily going up to people's homes right now.
Laura, the Blatnick Park sign, is that over by the old water and sewer garage, or is it the other entrance?
No, it's at the other entrance.
All right, there was a sign at the entrance to that that had all the the transfer station, the dog park, all those directions on there. That needs to go back up. I was working with Ray as far as where it would go, and it needs to be changed too because obviously the water and sewer is no longer there. So I just want to make sure it wasn't the same one.
No, that one is very good directional signage. I'm talking about the one that I think it was put up in honor of Jeff Blatnick. Like it used to have the Olympic rings on it and stuff. But
Okay, yep.
Like when you're driving towards the Babe Ruth fields, it's on the right, but it's being overgrown by the juniper shrubs. It's hard to see actually because it's dark and the junipers are dark. Other trees. It's actually eastern red cedar, but it's a kind of juniper. Sorry. Okay, so and then the other thing is, and Matt pointed this out to me, we lost a couple of the trees that we planted this spring because we had that month of absolute baking. So we were wondering if the CAC did a presentation to the Highway Department asking if there's areas in the park that we could designate as low mow, and it kind of folds into the bobolink habitat guy. And they came up with a bunch of really fun signs, and they're working with like the high school art students maybe to come up with signs so that, you know, highways and getting calls that they're not maintaining parks and they're a bunch of lazy bums because they're clearly not. But if we want to protect biodiversity and create some additional habitats in our parks, you know, there's some areas that we could do low mow. I know Denise did a really nice project where they planted wildflower seeds. And those are areas and stuff that don't need to be mowed because they're really great for habitat. And then we can put signs around them so that people aren't like, why isn't the town maintaining its park? They can go up and be like, oh, this is really good for birds and bees. And so we were thinking if there's a little bit less mowing going on, maybe we could put a big tank in the back of a, you know, like a pickup truck and have some watering of the trees that we plant happen. You know, it's a decent investment in these trees. And if we don't water them and it gets really hot, they die. And then it's a loss to the town. I mean, because we spent thousands of dollars on these trees. So we're working through it, but that's what the tree council is trying to ask. It's also, we can't get grants for tree planting without a watering system. They require that you have a watering system because they don't want to give you money to buy trees and then not have you have them all die. So, so hopefully we can replace the Dawn redwoods that died and then get a watering system. Those are some of our tree council goals. And for Conservation Advisory Council, aside from the LOMO and the pesticide-free lawn program, which they are moving forward, I do think you'll see something on that fairly soon. The CCA that Mega has been working with the town of Niskayuna on, the community choice aggregation of energy, is potentially moving forward in August. So it's probably timely. A lot of people are home, have electricity on more than they maybe had before, and it has gotten expensive. At least mine has. So I think it's pretty timely to see if we can get something out there that is cost savings and environmentally friendly. And so they had thought they'd have done the public outreach period and a variety of the other partners that we have in our community choice aggregation. And so they will be looking at prices over the next month, and we may have that next step, which is where they provide the prices to us, and the town board has to look at it and, you know, decide where the cost savings is and how much renewable we want. And that could be potentially in August. So I just wanted to let you know the updated timeline on that. Any questions? Okay, Climate Smart Communities Task Force. We were not able to make the bronze certification. It wasn't because we couldn't get enough points. I think that if I had continued to upload, I think we would have gotten enough points. But the problem was that we need a certain number of priority items. And the priority items were just, they're beyond the scope. I would say, generally speaking, the ones that are left are beyond the scope of a volunteer committee. The government greenhouse gas inventory, community action plan. There's some of the things that we had submitted the grant for that we didn't get that grant, but we are working with Capital District Regional Planning Commission Committee, CDRPC, and like Tara Donadio is gonna come to our next Climate Smart Communities meeting, and we're gonna kind of target maybe two of, well, because we need two more priority actions, the two ones that are most feasible and cost effective for us to do. And then our target deadline would now be December of 2020, or actually I think it's January 2021. And then the certification would potentially be awarded, I think, 2 months later in 2021. I did want to highlight that the shade structure policy that you guys passed, I think, was very well done. And I appreciate Carol Carey and Alexis working on that and Denise's support. You know, we do still have things that count. The clean energy upgrades is 10 points, and that's a lot of points in the Climate Smart Community certification process. And that ties into energy upgrades that we're doing at our wastewater treatment plant. And so you can see, like, they weigh points based on how good it is for the environment and what kind of impact it's going to make on climate change. And so a 10-point item is almost, I mean, it's almost the max. And so I really just want to emphasize that getting the clean energy up and going on the wastewater treatment plant, I mean, it has a lot of benefits to the town. It has a lot of benefits to the world. And, you know, it'll also help, and it's clearly identified by NYSERDA and by the DC and all the people that run this program as being a really important item in making your town climate smart. So there's a variety of other stuff that we can work on, but I don't want us to lose track of some of the stuff that we've already started working on. And then we'll, I'll have another meeting with them probably in late July, and then get a better plan back to you guys for how we can get certified by March of next year. Anybody have any questions on that?
No, thank you, Laura.
Okay. It's a really great program. The more you dive into the items, the more exciting it gets. And I mean, NIST is doing a lot all on its own, and just getting that, certification, doing those last couple items to get us there, I think is awesome.
No, it's critically important, and it fits with the character and culture of our community, Laura. And yeah. I'm very grateful to you for your leadership on this. It is where we should be.
Okay, good. And then we've talked about composting at this committee a lot, more than I even remembered in those minutes, but there is a Girl Scout who is interested in doing a gold award to work on a composting program. I tried to, set some expectations for her a little bit, but there's 2 composting programs that work in the Climate Smart Communities Task Force. There's one where you, it's kind of like a Solarize campaign where you reach out to composting companies, figure out what the best backyard composting bin is, and then you buy them in bulk, and then you can provide those cost savings to your residents, and then they can come and get them, and and then you can sort of stimulate and create a lot of backyard composting, and you get points for a Climate Smart certification for that. And then the other one you can do is like a curbside pickup or a drop off of compost. And that requires a DEC permit, because whoever's doing that compost within the town has to, be allowed by DEC to have a community-wide composting area. But was wondering, Matt, do you think it would be possible to add a composting drop off area to the transfer station?
And would that require a DEC permit?
I think it does.
I think the composting drop-off would be better somewhere out in the back where they actually compost material.
So
by the driving range.
But can we identify a spot that could be the drop-off spot, Matt?
That would have to go. Ray sort of oversees that all site back there, but his guys are the ones that manage the piles as well. So wherever that would be a good place out there for them, that's not in the way, but it also is close enough so they could, share it, spread it around, and move it from the drop off to where it's being stored permanently.
So that one is a heavier lift, I know. I think it also more points, so it potentially invites more composting, because there's people who have little yards or beautiful landscape yards, and they don't want a giant barrel in their back that they have to roll and compost. Some people do. Lots of people love to compost. But I think that you probably would get more participation. Well, you'd get the most participation on a curbside pickup of compost, I think. You'd probably get the second most participation with a drop-off. And then the third one would probably be the backyard composting. So she's actually willing to take forward any of those programs and wants to see where the appetite is for the town. And then she could either, work through the Climate Smart Community kind of guidelines and come up with how the program would work and what the budget would be, and how it could be staffed and stuff, and present all of that to the town board, and then you guys could implement when you had the budget to implement it. Or she could potentially do the one that really doesn't require too much of a budget, which would be the community buy of backyard composting bins. But keep that in mind. If you guys are interested, I could send you her name. She reached out to Chris LaFlemme, and she's trying to work with the Climate Smart Communities Task Force. But I know obviously you guys are the ones that is really going to involve, you, Matt, and Ray, and the town board. So that's that update.
So Laura, how many points are rain barrels?
There are rain barrels. Do I have that one on here?
I'm still on rain barrels, Laura.
Rain barrel thing too.
Great. Let's talk this girl into rain barrels. I think that's easier. A huge part of it is sustainability to get the gold award. And not our sustainability, not Matt Yetto's sustainability, but other people being able to continue to participate.
Maybe we could do both. You could say, because rain barrel, yeah, that would be great. Like maybe we could get her to, maybe figure out a bulk purchase for anybody who wants a rain barrel. And well, maybe I'm doing too much there, but I will definitely tell her. I think that is a great idea. And rain barrels is in the Climate Smart Community Certification.
It is. So we had talked about this once before. Can we get prices from somebody on rain barrels? Can we figure out what it would take on our part to do the rain barrels?
Yeah. Maybe she can do that for me too. I don't have a rain barrel, and I would love to have one.
Me too. In New York City, they give them out.
Yeah, well, that's what these programs are. So, yeah, yep.
We could find one, or somebody could be tasked with, because they want to win an award. They want to get an award of finding a program where we can get them, right? Yeah,
and you're also reducing peak runoff during heavy storms because you're capturing, like the rain from the roof and stuff and storing it. So you can tie it into stormwater reduction, and you can green infrastructure and stuff, and that's probably how New York City gives them away for free.
Okay, sounds like lots of points to me.
Yeah. Okay, and I think that's all I have. Where'd my agenda go? Ace Hardware went to Architectural Review Board, Building Department, working away. Paul Briggs, did you have anything or Alexis, did you have anything for legal?
This isn't really legal, Laura. Oh, sorry, Paul. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I don't.
All right. Just going to the Whitmire property. So I know, Laura, I agree that we can't. It's not parkland alienation, and I know that there maybe have been confusion. I think the intent is that the town acquire the property to maintain as the exact same status as exempt parkland, somewhat like what you're doing with the Aqueduct Park. So that's the intent of that. It's not to develop it or to build or to change its status. And I just wanted I think maybe Councilwoman McGraw can kind of elaborate on the purpose of why we want to buy this.
Right, and Matt can speak to it as well. Briggs can as well. Laura, we have a park in there's no way I would ever advocate for trying to get parkland from the state to put houses there. That's, Laura, you know me well enough. I'm the lady who just talked about rain barrels. So
I know.
But, as we look to do some sort of mediation over there on Whitmire Drive so that we can actually have a wastewater treatment plant that works at capacity, we're trying to look at all different things. And one of them is to perhaps, move the incoming road over a little bit onto the other side of that park. And so then we started looking at that park and standing in front of that park, and Yasmin was there, and we're all talking about it. And it's an unloved asset by the state. We've talked to the state. We had a meeting. We had a call with the state. They could barely find it on a map, other than one or two. They know personally one of the neighbors over there. So I don't think that the state would be adverse to giving up this park that they don't even really know how they got it to begin with. They've never staffed it. They've never done any upgrades, anything that, it's an asset for them that then they tell us that we have to go maintain it. So why don't we own it? That's our point.
Yeah, so Dennis can speak to this. I read something very interesting about it. Like when the state originally took it over, there were plans to develop it into a full state park. But I think maybe 5 or 10 years ago.
It was 10 years ago. I was there.
Yeah, well, then they designated it as essentially a wild park. And with that designation, essentially comes $0 state dollars for maintenance, which is why we have the Friends of the Lock 7 and stuff. I think they basically said, this isn't going to be what we thought it was, and now we're just going to keep it as a chunk of wild land. But what I sent to Alexis is, and the only reason that I'm so familiar with this is because we've asked the state for the Aqueduct Park. Multiple times the Canal Corp and the state have said, you guys are the ones that deal with this park. You guys are the ones that are spending $5 trillion on the park. It actually doesn't serve the state very well anymore, and it's a lot of permitting and headache for them because we're constantly doing stuff over there. And they looked into trying to get that parkland back to us. And I sent her all the parkland alienation documents that I can find. I mean, even if you have good reason to get that land, it's very difficult. You have to go all the way up to the legislature. They have to pass legislation that allows you to get that park back. It has to be signed off on by the attorney general. I mean, it's not, even if it makes sense, the process is just.
I guess, yeah. So I guess, I mean, I think you just need a commitment. Like I know it's going to be a long haul. We get that. But I mean, I think that the consensus I'm getting in the information I'm getting is that it's worth to at least try to push that along. And, and if we're shut down, then we're shut down, but at least we tried.
We have to make a formal request.
And so I can make the formal request. Laura, I know you're busy with Aqueduct, and if you feel more comfortable, I can write this letter. I don't mind doing that.
Well, so just a question: if we're asking them to alienate parkland to us, and they've talked, and I have had conversations with them before about Aqueduct Park, should we ask for both? Or do you not want to? Do you not want to muddy the water?
I don't know. I mean, whatever you think. We could do a conference call together. I mean, we have to make a formal request, but I think it's too different.
Let's put a letter together. Let's put a letter together and say that we want. We've already talked about this one, and and Laura's already talked about the Aqueduct Park. We have two pieces. I don't think we have anything to lose by asking for both of them. Maybe we'll get one, right? I mean, that's the tact I take with my clients. So.
And we need to keep in mind that we're also hoping to acquire that piece of land across the street adjacent to River Road Park, which we could use if we were ever going to try to change the entrance to the wastewater treatment plant. We might be able to use as a swap, making that parkland versus taking some of the other away to put a new entrance road in.
Yeah.
I think we just have a little bit more of a compelling story with this one, right? We have the land across the street. We have, something we're trying to do for the neighbors. We have an underutilized, very expensive town asset at the end of it. I mean, I think we're just trying to do a lot of things over there, and I think it would help us accomplish more.
And when we're on the topic of land around that area, Paul, can we follow up with either the seller or the mortgage company and ask about the status of approving of the short sale? You'd think that right now, with the climate, that they'd be more anxious than ever to just approve the short sale and get this liability off of their books.
I got an update about 2 weeks ago from the seller's attorney, and he sent a follow-up letter to the lender and hasn't heard back.
No, nothing going. So maybe we can, if we don't hear back on Monday, we can try again, just to make them know that we're kind of anxious to either get an answer or, not get our hopes up, I guess. Because I think the idea being is we have to then figure out what we're going to do with this house that we have to demolish, and then potentially divide the front parcel off away from the undeveloped land.
So Alexis, short sale brings me to zombies. Can you follow up with David? And Ray Gillen called me the other day. Everybody's very disappointed on what went on Van Antwerp and why Judge Cuevas would have ruled against us.
Yes.
But we can we regroup and have that meeting?
That's something we might need to add to finance. I mean, yes. I mean, I can't. I don't want to get into our legal arguments.
No need to, but
I'd say that we're going to move. Definitely, I've been in touch with David Hogenkamp, and I've received some emails about the properties that they're looking for. And Paul Briggs and I had talked to a special outside of counsel who was willing to maybe look just really deeply and delve deeply into the exact reasoning of the decision. So, I mean, we're addressing that. I mean, I can give you an update offline.
Great, thank you.
I didn't know that they didn't let us take Van Antwerp.
No,
they didn't let us take us. They said that they wanted to. This is the whole thing. The purpose of zombies, and from my perspective, and especially in Niskuna, is that the owner has died. Not that or usually that's the case with the most of our properties on our confidential list that we maintain of all of the, our priority houses. And so the argument was, they said, well, who do you serve with process? It's called personal jurisdiction. Who do you serve when somebody is dead and there's no living heirs? And so that's that's a really interesting point, and it goes to the legislative history. And so that's what they're kind of looking at. They're not saying you can't do it. They're saying give us the reason why either you have to go through surrogates court, which I think is contrary to the intent of Article 19A, which was to expedite the ability for a municipality to obtain vacant land, whereas surrogates require 7 months at least to, to have someone appointed. Then from there, we'd have to go back to Supreme Court. These are things that, I would love to just spend hours and night, 24, 48 hours just, delving all over this history. But with all of the COVID things going on, I haven't been able to. But I mean, I think
maybe though,
that,
taxes haven't been paid on that parcel since she passed away. No,
I know, but we can't be a creditor. We can't be a creditor, and it can't be on both sides of the party. So I mean, if we can't.
I know, but I mean, but the state changed its law that I think instead of waiting 3 years on foreclosure, now the county can do it like in 1 year. And take a look at the timelines. It may actually make more sense just for time and cost wise to.
But then it would be the county who has the title to the property and not the town.
Well, that's okay because they
right, it'd be Ray.
Yeah, and then they use the land bank, and that's what they did with 2 Cornelius. They put it out to bid, and they find somebody who will either take it down or rehabilitate it, and then we get a beautiful house there again.
Let's meet with them.
Yeah, we can talk to strategies. Yeah, I mean, there's that strategy. Yeah, I'll talk to them. I will set up either a meeting and we can kind of just strategize what they think's the best way. And Laura, I think maybe you have to be on that call because obviously, the first step is to identify condemned houses as well.
And are we required to have a zombie registry?
Yeah, it's a state. We're required to. I think it's the mortgagors. So the obligations is on a mortgage holder to identify. I think it's dual, but it's more so the legal obligations are on a mortgage holder.
Okay, because I was asked about that the other day. Because other municipalities have them and we don't.
Yes, so that we get those questions fairly regularly. A fair number of municipalities require a vacant home registration themselves. We use the New York State vacant registration list. We don't have our own.
Okay.
I mean, there are codes to do that. I don't know that it would be a zoning code, but we could require vacant homes. Banks are required to ask us in the zoning compliance letters if we require a registration of vacant homes. That's how prevalent it is, but we don't.
Right. So is that a lot of work for us? I mean, why wouldn't we want to have that?
I don't know. I've only looked into it just because I get those questions from people sometimes, and I was confused by it to begin with.
Okay, can we look into seeing if it's too cumbersome? Then, but I would like to have one. I would like to move forward. I would obviously sponsor that. I think John would support that completely. So.
Okay, and then last item, Dennis, I sort of took over your historical item. I know you're working on the sign, and hopefully we'll get it, within a month or two. But I think we talked about this before, and Gene's not on here. I can't remember what his name is, but there is a guy who would be willing to set up a Friends of the Grange, and I would love to be on there and help him out. If we could just get some interested people who want to get out there and maybe regularly kind of update the landscaping and paint I don't know what they can do, but having a Friends of the Grange I think would only be helpful.
I think they tried to do that once before, and I know I said I would do it. I think it's a great idea.
So I think the guy who wants to do it is pretty motivated. I'm pretty sure you know
who is the guy.
Hold on, let me
can't remember his name.
I think it's a great idea.
Right?
And I followed up on the sign. I sent a second email. I still haven't heard back from them. If I don't hear in another few days, I will try to get them on the phone and see if I can find out when the sign's coming. Although my timeline was to do something probably in the fall, but of course, so much we don't know what's going to happen with COVID and schools and all that. But I'd like to get something done in the fall, perhaps, and tie that in with this Friends of the Grange committee. I think would be wonderful.
I agree, Dennis. That'd be fantastic.
I will email it. So Gene was trying to get me his email because she knows him, and he had told her that he was interested in the Grange, and she's trying to connect him with me. If I can just get his phone number, his email, I can call him and then really get a sense. But he's posted multiple times on Facebook that he really wants to help, and I think he has a variety of friends that would also help him. So I think he may just actually bring in a fair number of people all on his own, and then Dennis and Denise and me and whoever else loves that place could also help.
Yeah.
I know some people who are interested as well in promoting it. And But if you want to send me his name and want me to follow through on it, I'll do that for you, Laura, too.
Oh, that would be great. Okay. I will send that. Yeah. Okay. And then if we're doing a Friends, like, do we formally recognize, like, the Friends of Lock 7? Like, does the town recognize them, or do they just form and then help? You know?
If they're a formal Friends of and they fundraise, they would have to register with the state.
Oh, okay. Oh, Gene says his name is Matt Wall.
Oh, Matt Wall.
You guys know them?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, Tanya knows him. He loves the Grange.
He loves the Grange. He loves this community. Great. He's the one.
Send me his email.
I don't have it yet, but when I get it, I will. Oh, you have it?
I'll connect everybody.
Yay, Denise! Thank you.
He's the guy. Did you see the thing I posted? His kid went to town and county facilities all around the town, and he did a little blurb. He's a 6th grader, and he did a little blurb about each one of them, and then interviewed somebody from the school district, somebody from the county, and somebody from the town. And Matt Wall just loves this town, and his kids love this town, and he lives over there. He lives on Rosendale Road.
That's what Jeannie just wrote. She said she lives on Rosendale Road and has done some research.
Jeannie.
Already.
I thought you were talking about Jean Sass now. Yeah, I'll connect you.
Okay, awesome. Yay, thanks, Denise. Because I, probably overcommit myself, but I would be out there any Saturday or Sunday. Anybody wanted to do something. I'm a really good painter. If anybody needs paint.
And you're a very good planter.
And planter, that's right. And I don't mind bringing the plants because I have no ability to control myself. At plant nursery, and I buy them
Laura.
all anyway. So we might as well plant them somewhere that they benefit everyone.
And you are a very good planner as well.
So okay, great. That's all I've got, and I would really love to help with Grange if anybody.
All right, Team Grange. Delaradum is so much fun.
I know.
Briggs is loving every minute of this. He wishes I could chair this committee every month.
Paul, you're
Briggs
too
is
far
probably
away
split
from
his
the
wrist
screen.
already.
Just kidding.
Okay. Thank you. I would make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Thank you very much, sir. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Do we need to
reschedule the meeting? Schedule the next meeting?
No, it's August 7th. If you guys don't mind, I only need to do this, I think, one more time at 8:30 next month, and that's just because of the time that I have to drop Lily off at JCC camp. I honestly don't know what'll happen in the fall, but I think that we could probably go back to 8:15 in the fall.
Okay, I'll make sure that I'm on the call, and if we have to do this same thing where John has to go, then I'll just take the second half of it.
Okay, great.
And I'll talk to John. So, all right. Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you all. That was an excellent meeting.